friend of mine recently told me that an assistant had just started at her work, and in the first week, this new assistant sent her boss a questionnaire to get to know her better. So essentially, this assistant sent her boss homework. This is the person she reports to, right? This is somebody who she just told them like, hey, I don't think you are that busy. You must have the time. Please fill out this questionnaire so I can get to know you better. Obviously, I do not think you should send a questionnaire, and I am really hoping and praying that this was a one-off rare situation, but my fear is that we are getting so used to not talking to people and finding so many ways to not have to verbally chat that things like this are starting to be perceived as normal and okay, and they're not. And so we're gonna talk about why, yes, you should get to know your coworkers, but how to properly do it. Now, if we haven't met, my name is Cassandra and I help people go from hating work to happy work, and I want you to do well on the job after you get it. So in those first couple of weeks, really in the first 2, you do need to get to know your supervisor better, your team, and any other coworkers that you tend to work with a lot. And I understand that talking to new people can feel really awkward, right? Especially now. Now that people do so much through text, and not actually talking, it is getting harder and harder, and it feels more awkward than it probably used to have those first conversations. But if you want to have that friend at work, if you want to have that person that's going to help you out when you can't find something in Drive, or you need someone to help you by making some copies because you're slammed with something else to do, or you just want somebody to have lunch with, we got to get through that awkward initial conversation so we can get to the really good stuff that happens after. Not to mention, by getting to know your supervisor and your coworkers, you're going to automatically feel more connected to the team, to the work environment, and you'll end up doing your job better because you're going to know who to go to for certain things and who you're working with, etc. So we've got to get to know our coworkers, but here's the way to go about it. And I admit, what I'm about to share is simple, but that doesn't mean people do it, and we could all use a reminder now and then. With your supervisor first, I would recommend asking them if you can go to coffee or lunch just to get to know them better. With your boss, you want to ask questions about like how you got started, how long have you worked in the company, what did you do before this, what do you love about the job, what do you do in your free time, etc. You just want to get to know them. But you can also ask questions like, what's the best way of communicating with you? What pet peeves do you have at work so I can make sure to avoid those? Things like that. It's really going to go far that you said like, hey, I want to get to know you better. If they are super busy, I always suggest saying like, hey, I'd love to have coffee or lunch, or I know your time is really limited. Could we even just do like a 15-minute chat in your office, or obviously if it's remote over Zoom or whatever software you use. But we aren't having a Slack conversation. You're going to have actual words, and they will have actual words back verbally. And then with coworkers, you're going to do essentially the same thing. Go to your coworkers and ask to have like a 15 to 20 minute Zoom. You don't have to have lunch and coffee with everybody, but for those you're going to be working really closely with, you might want to ask for a coffee. For those that are just kind of more in your area, in departments you work with a lot, ask for a 15-minute Zoom or in-person chat. I've been at jobs where this was actually part of like my onboarding. They gave me a list of people and said set meetings with these people to get to know them. And my very first full-time job, they made me do that. And I remember feeling so awkward writing people who I hadn't even met yet and saying like, hi, I'm Cassandra. Would you have 15 minutes to get to meet with me? I know it felt so awkward on my end, but I forgot like, oh yeah, if this is part of onboarding, they do this all the time. Like this is part of the way the culture works. So they don't think it's weird that you want to meet with them. Just put yourself out there. It'll be worth it. And even if your company doesn't make you do it, this is going to go really far in showing initiative that you went to try and get to know people on the team. Like I said, if it's coworkers that you're not quite sure how often you'd work together, we don't need to stretch this process out. A 15-minute to 20-minute Zoom or in-person meeting is totally fine. And again, you're gonna ask them questions like, hey, so what's your role on the team? How long have you worked here? What did you do before this? Did you always want to work in this? What do you want to do next? That one can feel threatening if it's with with the wrong person. So feel them out. Be like, oh, do you want to stay in this role? Or are you looking to do other things? I'm just curious, but it doesn't always work all the time. And then of course, ask them too, like, how do we work together? And even personal things like, what do you like to do for fun? Or are you from the area? Stuff like that. Like, you still want to just get to know them as a person. And then be mindful of time. When it hits 15, 20 minutes, thank them for their time, wrap it up, and leave the room or leave the Zoom. And then bonus tip on this, when you're meeting with people, make sure you're taking notes. Even though this is just like a, hey, I want to get to know you, come with a notepad and paper or have it next to you on the Zoom. And you're not going to write down every single word they say. You're going to be in the conversation. But when something important gets said, write it down. They're going to share like nuggets of wisdom with you of, oh yeah, you know, we always do this on Thursdays, or you always want to make sure you tell this person where this meeting is because they always forget. You're going to want to write those things down. This is my pet peeve. When someone comes in my office to get to know me or to ask me advice on something, and I'm sharing with them all that I can about the topic they're asking me about, and they're just sitting there going, oh, okay. And I'm like, write it down. You are not going to remember all of this. Write down some key things that can jog your memory later. It shows that person like, hey, I really care about what you're saying. So make sure you write some things down. And if you need more help with getting started in a new role, I have a whole playlist for you right here. Go check it out so you can start off with success, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.